And we are now live on YouTube if either of the co-chairs would like to take it away.
Sure. Thank you, Cameron. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first official meeting of the Firefighter Cancer Relief Fund Advisory Committee. I guess without objection, we will convene the meeting and start moving to the agenda that was distributed by Cameron earlier. I think I know most people on the call, but I don't know if everyone knows everyone else. So it might be a good idea for us to run through a quick introduction. Just tell us who you are and who you represent. I'll start if that makes sense. My name is Peter Brown. I'm the president of the Uniform Professional Firefighters Association. We represent about 4,000 career firefighters across the state, and I was named as chair of this committee. So I guess I'll turn it over to my co-chair, Jim Marler, if his audio is back up. Jim, looks like you're on mute. No sound. All right, we will. All right, we'll continue around the room. So we'll start with the treasurer's office. Sarah.
Thank you. This is Sarah Sanders. I'm the Deputy State Treasurer, and just for the benefit of the committee, we've been working with this fund. We have several responsibilities associated with the Firefighters Cancer Relief Fund. We've been working with the fund for the last 3 years, and I've asked three colleagues to join: Sharon Anderson, Director of Financial Services; Jen Putetti, Director of Strategic Initiatives; and Jessa Myrtle, our Senior Legal Counsel. Thank you.
Right, thank you. And I'll just go down the list here from what was distributed. Is Chief Ortiz on?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. How you doing? Chief Ortiz, New Britain Fire Department.
Thank you, Chief. Next up is Tim O'Flynn.
Good afternoon. I'm Tim O'Flynn, and I'm an attorney with Ferguson, Doyle, and Chester. I represent the UPFFA along with various other fire unions across the state. I'm also a professional firefighter in the state of Connecticut.
Okay, next will be Matt, TPS.
I am Matt Cecilia, Chief Actuary of the Pension Service located in North Haven. We've been assisting the UPFFA for a decade now with negotiations and performing actuarial calculations.
Thank you, Matt. Next up, Jim Feehan.
Yes, sir. Jim Feehan, retired fire lieutenant, Stanford Fire Department, currently president, New England Fire, appointed by, I believe, the Senate to represent them.
Great, thank you. Next up from CCM, Carl Fortuna.
Hi there. I'm on my phone, so I'm not going to put up my video, but Carl Fortuna, first selectman in the town of Old Saybrook, and I sit on the CCM board of directors, and I'm also chairman of the board of the Connecticut Interlocal Risk Management Association, CIRMA, which insures many of the towns in the state of Connecticut. And I've been involved in one way or another with some firefighter relief fund negotiations over the years. So,
thank you. And Carl, do you know if John Solomon is joining us? The second.
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, I don't see him on as of yet, so we'll move on to John Carew.
John Carew. John Carew from the State Firefighters Association.
Thank you, John. And next up is John Harrington from the Comptroller's Office. I don't see him either. Okay, we'll move on to Matt Daskell from the Governor's Office.
Morning, Matthew Daskell. I'm with the Office of Policy and Management, and I represent the Governor's Office.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. So this is our first official meeting of this advisory committee. Have on the agenda some brief remarks from the chairs. again, thank you all for agreeing to join and be part of this process. As many of you know, our organization, along with all of our other state firefighter organizations across the state and many of our partners that are represented on this call, we've been working on the firefighter cancer epidemic for quite a few years now. The original version of this law went into effect in 2016, I believe. And since then, we've been working on several modifications to that law. The most significant change came about two and a half years ago, where this committee was established and the new set of cancer benefits that are available went into effect. Over the last two sessions, we've also made some minor technical changes, and I know there was some delay getting this committee up and running, but great to see everyone on here today. And just wanted to review for everyone's information what this committee is tasked with. Per statute 7313Q, created this Cancer Relief Advisory Committee. Our job is to annually evaluate financial solvency of the cancer relief account by analyzing fund balances, reviewing claims data, reviewing the quarterly report from the State Treasurer's Office, which was distributed by Cameron earlier. Our second priority is identifying a need for new funding mechanisms. And our third is to determine the necessity to purchase insurance products to help maintain solvency. So I know this is a first meeting. I think we're probably just going to hear from the Treasurer's Office to give an overview of their report. And then after that, we'll open it up for discussion on those other 2 points. And I guess then we'll set our next meeting date. So Jim, I don't know if your audio is working or you want to do an introduction and if you have anything to add. Jim's been a good partner in our work. Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Or?
Yes.
Good. Apologies. New computer. Jim Marler, 35 years as a financial planner, New England Financial Group, just here to provide Pete and some guidance regarding potential financial investments, questions regarding the wonderful fund that's been created for the state of Connecticut and the firefighters.
Thank you, Jim. All right. Moving on to agenda item 3, I will turn it over to Deputy Treasurer Sarah Sanders or anyone from your team that wants to give us a brief update on your report.
Thank you very much. So the most recent report that we issued reported a balance in the fund of over $8 million and reported that we paid out claims in the fiscal year 2025 of $336,000. We administer claims under 2 programs. One is the older wage replacement program, and the other is the newer municipal reimbursement program, where firefighters can be reimbursed for not only lost wages, but also medical costs that may not be covered under their current medical plan. We also have instituted under the statute, there's a requirement that municipalities pay $10 per firefighter. I think it's kind of a placeholder. And we took on that responsibility, and we're in our second year of collections. We just sent out the notification. But I call that a placeholder because that only raised about $80,000 last year. So as we look at the solvency of the fund, that's not really a game changer unless that were to be increased. But I just want to speak to the high level solvency of the fund. In the last 3 years, the total claims have been paid out are less than $1 million, and we have $8 million in the bank. And if you haven't heard, we have a new revenue source coming in October 1, which is a 5-cent church surcharge on phone bills, certain 4 to 5 million phone lines, that's expected to bring in $2 million a year. So with just some simple math, I think we're in a good financial position for solvency, but I think we'll probably want to do some longer projections.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. And do you or anyone from your team, I see there's information on the 3 claims that came under the original wage replacement statute, and I'll turn it over to John maybe in a minute if he wanted to talk about that process. But do you have any information on what's gone out from the municipal reimbursement side so far? I know this report was from July, so maybe.
I do have 5 municipalities have been reimbursed. Hartford, Hampden, New London, East Haddam, and Westport, subject to check, but
okay.
And I don't have the total dollar amount, the split between the 2 programs. Handy.
Okay.
We could provide that.
So the
Sarah,
336.9, that's total claims paid from both programs, correct?
Is that right, Sharon?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
Okay. Thank you, Sharon.
Sarah, how often are contributions made? Is it an annual contribution to the fund?
The main sources of income to the fund have been significant state appropriations. Interest income, we do have this invested and it's returning 4 to 5%, most recently 4%. So interest income has been also a source of income. And then this $10 per firefighter, which is an annual fee. And as I said, I think it's just a placeholder because it only raised like $80,000. But and given that, last session, they passed a whole new funding source, it's expected to bring in 2 million a year. It's supposed to bring in 1.8 to 2.2 million this fiscal year and 2.4 to 3 million future fiscal years. So, that's a really nice ongoing revenue source for this fund.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And before I go to John, I see John Harrington joined us from the Comptroller's Office. Do you want to give a quick introduction to the group?
Yes, so I'm John Harrington. I'm the Director of the Retirement Services Division. I oversee the day-to-day administration of many of the statewide plans, the largest being the State Employees Retirement System, which has a very robust disability retirement process connected to that. I also oversee the administration of the Municipal Employees Retirement System, which also has a disability program, and there are many municipal firefighters that are currently collecting and or applying for benefits through that system, and also the Connecticut Police and Fire Survivors Funds benefits.
Thank you. And so far, all you missed the I don't know when you logged on, but the Treasurer's Office just gave a brief report on the status of the fund and how many claims have been paid out so far under this past fiscal year. So didn't miss too much.
Thank you.
And I'll turn it over to John Carew for a minute. John, if you want to just give us a brief rundown. John is the chair of the wage replacement cancer relief program. That was the first version that's still up and running for our members as well.
So as Sarah reported, a large amount was paid out through that fund this year. What we're trying to educate our members on is to the newer fund and to try and get our members to switch over. We're having trouble with the education side of it. A lot of people are applying to the wage replacement fund when they should be applying to the municipal reimbursement side. So we're doing a little education as we're getting the claims coming in. Right now, there's 3 claims that we're working on since the June report was provided, but it appears they're going to withdraw their claim for wage replacement because they should be in the municipal reimbursement program instead of the wage replacement. The one thing that we are also trying to educate the majority of the CSFA membership, which a lot of that is on the volunteer side of the system, is the benefits of the municipal or workers' comp type plan versus the wage replacement. The one thing that we need to, and I believe there's going to be a phase out period of the wage replacement over time, just so it reduces the confusion. The part that we're having a little stumbling block on is the independent individual contractor that is relying on that quicker reimbursement per se, which is, and they may not have the available resources to go through the workers' comp type program. So I think through education we'll get there. It's just it may be taking a little bit longer than I think we all wanted.
Good. Thank you, John. And just to speak briefly on the municipal reimbursement side, I just want to say that I want to thank Sarah and her team. For those that haven't seen it, they created a set of guidelines on their website and some forms that the municipalities can use to request reimbursement. I think, when the law was passed, it set up the process, but didn't really go into the details of how everything was going to be administered. And the treasurer and the treasurer's team really took it upon themselves to formalize that process, create a program that's really easy to follow. I know I've spoken to a few of the firefighters from the municipalities that have sought reimbursement so far, and everyone said it runs very well, pretty seamless, smooth. I think, as John said, it becomes an education thing. I think, I don't know if that's necessarily a task for this committee, but I think we all need to do our job to educate municipalities that maybe haven't had a claim yet, let them know where to go, where to find the information, and it's all pretty well laid out through the treasurer's website. So thank you, Sarah, and thank you to all the OTT members on the call. So as I said, I think the statute lays out our three priorities. One is our top priorities evaluate the financial solvency of the cancer relief account. I would turn it over to some of the financial experts on this call. I don't know if we have the claims data yet to really do a in-depth analysis of how things are trending, but I think as Sarah said, we have $8 million in. We've only paid out $300,000 in this last fiscal year. So things are in a good place now, but I know at least from our organization side, we probably have in the neighborhood of 25 to 30 claims outstanding that are either in some form of process, have not been accepted fully yet. There's really no way to determine the dollar value of all those claims, but I think there's going to be a point where a significant number of claims do go through, are accepted, start to be processed. And I think probably by our next meeting, we'll have a better understanding of where we are from a fiscal perspective. There was, as I said at the beginning, there were some technical changes made to the law this year. Starting October 1st, workers' comp judges in the state are now going to have the authority to adjudicate these claims. So some of the claims that are outstanding may need to go through the workers' comp informal hearing process to be processed. And they're going to be able to, a workers' comp judge will be able to actually sign off and authorize the municipalities to cover those claims. So again, we think that's going to probably speed up the claims process a little bit. And then, through education, I think as everyone gets a little more familiar with this law, we anticipate that the claims process is going to be a lot quicker than it's been for the last year and a half with a new law. Obviously, everyone's kind of learning this on the fly. So I think it'll be a good item to add to our agenda for next meeting to get a better understanding where we are once we have kind of a critical mass of our claims being processed at that point. I don't know if anyone has any input or thoughts on that.
I was going to volunteer for our next meeting. We could provide a 3-year summary of the sources of revenue, which have been interest income, state contributions, and contributions from municipalities, and then also show the expenditures from the 2 programs. But what I'll really need input from, we can calculate, and we have our new revenue source, so we could even do projections, but the big question mark for us is what the claims might be, because going into this, I know how expensive cancer treatments can be. And so I was expecting this could have some sizable payouts, but I don't know if there's anyone in this committee that has a better sense to help us think about what projected payouts might be. But we could put together the rest of it. We have the data for the rest of it. It's just the uncertainty over the future claims. Of course, we could do some scenarios.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah. I think that'd be very helpful for us for our next meeting. Yeah, and from a claims perspective, I'm not an expert on the entire claims process, but I know the way that the system was structured. It provides wage replacement for the period of time that you're out of work, and it also provides for out-of-pocket medical expense reimbursement. So at least for most of our career firefighters on the municipal side, the out-of-pocket costs are somewhat capped. Usually most health plans have an out-of-pocket maximum for the year. So we don't anticipate there's going to be a lot of catastrophic size claims, million plus or greater claims. As you said, cancer treatment can be very expensive. The majority of that is covered under their group health insurance, and all the plan is really doing is reimbursing some of their out-of-pocket costs, copays, prescription payments, things like the doctor's visits. So hopefully that keeps things under somewhat reasonable levels per each claim. But I think with the volume of claims we think that are outstanding, I think that number could rise up pretty quickly once they start getting processed. So.
And do we have a sense of those outstanding claims, right? We're talking about 25 or 30. Is that like pent up demand, or is that kind of what we would expect a number of claims in a given year? Or do they cover a wider time period?
Our organization has tracked our members that since the law went into effect, which was October 22, I believe. If a member in one of our organization's locals submitted a claim, we asked them to also let us know that a claim was filed. So we have a list, like I said, of around 30 claims since that point that have been filed. A number of them have not been processed yet, but some of those claims, just to be clear for the group, I don't want to say are placeholder claims. This might be a firefighter that was diagnosed with cancer, maybe didn't need any real extensive treatment, had not missed any extensive period of time from work. So there's really not a dollar value assigned to that claim, but they do have an active cancer that should be covered under the law and may need a future expense at some point. So I think the level of claim is going to vary on a case-by-case basis.
Hey, Pete, can I add something to that?
Sure.
Yeah, we have about 3 or 4 also from the volunteer side that, as I said earlier, that we've referred back that they should be in the municipal reimbursement program versus the wage replacement program. And some of that I think will, once the claims start to get adjudicated or whatever the case is going to be, I think that's going to give us a better read as to projection for an average. Right now, it seems like we have, between your organization, the State Fire Association, maybe there's about 35 or so claims that are waiting. And I think once that happens, I think it's going to mellow out a little bit, and we'll have a better handle on it. And I think you may see a little spike initially to the fund, but I think it's going to level off, and hopefully some of our financial people that are on there can give us some ideas or projections after we get the data from Sarah and all them about what the money has been and what the projected money coming in and how they think the best investment's going to be on that.
I agree. Thank you, John. Before we move on to our priority item 2, does anyone else have any other comments or questions on the financial solvency or fund balance side? All right. So priority 2 for the committee is to identify the need for a new funding mechanism. As Sarah said, that was addressed in this last session. They created a fund which will charge a 5-cent charge on every phone line in the state. One item that I think we can make mention of in this committee meeting is I believe that item was added to the special session calendar. So there may be some minor modifications to that. We were told that there potentially might be looking to push back the start date. I think that the charge was going to go into effect January 1st. And I think there was some question from some of the telecom groups about whether they could get that charge up and running prior to January 1st. So they may be looking for some relief to push that start date back by a few months. I think we'll know more when we get some more information on special session. But I think from a fund perspective and for this committee, I don't think, going off Sarah's data with 8 million in the fund, I don't think pushing back the start date a few months is really going to have a significant impact on our fund balance. But we will monitor that, and I'll see if Cameron can share that information with the group once again we get some more information from special session. Anyone have any comments or questions on our priority item 2? All right. And our last item is determining the necessity to purchase insurance to help maintain solvency. I think this was something that has been discussed since the creation of this fund. I know there was folks that were involved in the creation of this law that felt at some point it would make sense to transition this into some sort of an insurance policy rather than paying claims on a pay-as-you-go basis. It would probably give a little more stability to handle this as an insurance product. Admittedly, I have no idea what that would look like or where we would start to get information on that. But I would open it up to the group if anyone has any input or suggestions. It might be a good time now while things are quiet to start collecting some information on that and figure out exactly how we would proceed with even looking for an insurance policy to cover this. And it might be something we could discuss further with some more information at our next meeting. Anyone have any thoughts or input on that?
Pete, are you aware of any other states across the country that may be leaning that way or have already taken the steps to pursue this being more of an insurance policy?
Yes, in conversations I've had with other state associations, other firefighter groups, I know there are a number of states that do handle their cancer program through an insurance product. I don't know if structurally their benefits are set up exactly the same way as ours are. Ours is a little bit unique and to Connecticut and kind of mirroring our workers' comp laws. But I do know that there are insurance products out there that are covering cancer benefits for firefighters across the country. So, that might be. I'm happy to reach out to my peers around the country and see if they could provide us some additional information. And I don't know if anyone on the call from the state has any input on, does the state work with any insurance providers that might be able to do something in this and cover these benefits, like a similar, if there's similar benefits provided across the state that might function similar to how this account is run.
I'm happy to be a point person, Pete, just to gather the information, work with Sarah and her team, and then identify if something sounds familiar. It's easier to find someone in Connecticut on the property casualty, that side of the insurance world that may already be in place instead of reinventing the wheel. So,
okay, thank you, Jim. I appreciate
you and I can talk offline, and I can have to make some calls and see what they're doing.
Right. Well,
Okay.
what I would say is on the retirement side, we administer the police and firefighters survivors fund that historically was backed by a private insurer. I think that the Travelers company backed that benefit until the early 90s. My understanding is that it was ultimately the State Employees Retirement Commission oversaw that plan, and at the time the administrative costs seem to be excessive for paying for that through an insurance product, and the thought was that through self-insuring it would be cheaper for the administration. I also believe that just anecdotally that it's different if you have a state body that's administering a plan as opposed to a private insurer when it comes to adjudicating close claims. I believe that those were two reasons why the state at the time believed that it was better to self-insure as opposed to procure the insurance. That being said, I mean, without understanding exactly what the risks are, we could be underfunding this, and the demands could outstrip pretty quickly. So I think that insurance companies are in a better position to underwrite that risk than we would be.
Okay. That makes sense, John. And do you know, John, if this were a situation where the state would self-insure, would you need to partner with a third party to administer claims, or do you think that can be done in-house as well through the treasurer's office or your team? Or
Yeah,
some
I think
combination.
that would take some research. I don't know right off the top of my head how that would work. I would say with the police and firefighters fund, we absolutely are just funding it as its own pension plan, and so there's an actuarial valuation, and we just administer all of the claims on our own.
Okay.
My sense is one of the reasons it might not be efficient to outsource it is because we only had 7 claims last year. This is a low volume transaction, and I'm sure there's certain fixed costs that would have to be spread over that. But one of my questions about this whole program, and maybe people on the call could give me a feedback, is in theory, if these claims were subject for workers' comp, this would all go through the regular workers' comp system, right? I mean, I've always wondered, was that I was told that was entertained early on and rejected because it would raise the workers' comp fees on municipalities. But there's this whole system for other types of work-related injuries and workers' comp, and it's always surprised me that this kind of wasn't just embedded in that whole system, which is kind of insurance system, but maybe politically that wasn't doable. So I just want to throw that out.
I'll say from my perspective, from my involvement in this, there was kind of two reasons I think that we steered away from the traditional workers' comp system, which is still available technically, and I explained that briefly. But the two reasons were, one, yes, there was a fear from municipalities that it would raise workers' comp premiums significantly. So they were reluctant to go that route. And then the second thing was, we had to deal with the issue of causation, that there were very few, if any, doctors that would go on the record and say, yes, your cancer is directly tied to your work as a firefighter for X number of years. So to avoid that causation problem, this fund was created to kind of have a no cause needed access to these benefits. So it's just assumed that if you meet the criteria of the law, if you're a firefighter so many years, you didn't smoke, you did all these things, that we can presume that your cancer came from your job, and we will cover the benefits from this fund. So firefighters do have the ability to go through traditional workers' comp, but they would need a doctor to go on the record to say that their cancer is directly tied to either some call they went on or some extended, extended years of service in the fire service that directly caused their cancer. And historically, it's been extremely hard to do that in my career anyway. So I think that those are the two main reasons that I would say. I don't know if anyone else has any other input on that, but I think that was the reason that this process was created.
I believe you're right, Pete. I believe during all that time period back in 15, 16, when all that was going on, that the biggest problem or the biggest concern was the municipalities were afraid that it was going to have a huge spike to the workers' comp claims, and then it would increase their cost. And again, there was no professional doctor that would go on the record to say that this is definitely a work related. So we'd be kind of spinning our wheels going nowhere. I believe that's how we end up where we are now.
Yep. And I see Carl on camera now. Do you want
Yeah.
to give some insight on this from your perspective?
Yeah, and if I may, when you start talking about the workers' comp, you start talking about that is the insurance for it. So what we're talking about, and was referenced earlier, is right now, if a firefighter gets cancer, they're going through medical insurance. If they were to go through workers' comp insurance, Connecticut already has some of the highest property taxes in the nation, and you would see an explosion in workers' comp insurance costs. And that was one of the reasons that CCM, KERMA, firefighters organization really worked hard to put this in place. There was some legislation that was proposed that would allow for a presumption in workers' comp. I think that was proposed at one point, that they could go to workers' comp and there would be a presumption that the cancer was caused as a result of their career. And that was, I'm not saying it wouldn't have passed, but it was a bit of a non-starter for municipalities and Kerma. So this is where we are. We have a steady fund. I'm very happy about this. I'm happy for the firefighters. The fact of the matter, it's gonna be of no effect to probably every cell phone owner in the state of Connecticut. It's a recurring revenue. Insurance claims will go through medical insurance or Medicare. If an officer is on, firefighter is on Medicare, and I think we're in a good place. Kerma hired Deloitte to try to take a look at what would happen if, in fact, we brought these claims into workers' comp, and Deloitte couldn't even come up with a number. Now we're struggling here, and we're not even talking covering really for medical expenses. We're talking about out of pockets, missing work. We were talking about putting the whole kit and caboodle into workers' comp insurance. Deloitte came back after many hours of studying this and said, we have no idea because it could be enormous. So we've put a lot of time and work into it. I know the firefighters have been hard at work on this for a very long time. CCM was very involved, and I really think we're in a good spot right now with a recurring revenue, and hopefully all the firefighters can get the care they need, and the fund stays reasonably solvent for the long term. But thank you for that.
Thank you for the background.
Thank you, Carl. And I will say too, this program, we're very proud of this program, and I can say that we've gotten to this place where we are today because we had a good partnership with CCM and worked with a lot of our municipal leaders to come up with something that worked for everyone, that got the firefighters the benefits they needed, and addressed any of the concerns that other groups had. So, I think we're in a very good place. I think once we get these claims, a number of these claims actually processed, and this revenue stream coming in, I think we're going to be in a really strong position, I would say, a year from now. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this committee can do and where the fund is over the next year or so. So does anyone else have any insight or input on the insurance side? I think it sounds like Jim I could talk to Jim offline and maybe he can coordinate with the treasurer's office, and we'll compile some data that we get from around the country to see if there are some avenues we might want to pursue for the future. But that's going to be kind of a longer term process.
Sounds good.
All right. So those were our three issue items to discuss. Is there any other items under general discussion before we discuss a time and date for our next meeting?
Thanks for putting this all together. It was long coming, but with the information we got, I think it's going to be helpful moving forward.
Thank you. And thank you to Cameron, who helped organize all of this. I know he's got a lot of things on your plate, but put a lot of work into this. So we appreciate your time on this. And Cameron, do you have any input on next meeting dates and times? Are we meeting? Is this an annual meeting or?
This is up to the discretion of the co-chairs and the membership. All I would ask is to avoid Friday afternoons, since I also staff the indoor air quality working group that meets generally Friday afternoons.
Okay. So I don't know if it makes sense to maybe schedule a meeting for what are we in September here? Maybe we schedule a meeting for after the first of the year, once we see when this new workers' comp adjudication process gets up and running a little bit, we'll have more clarity on the phone charge, when that's going to start and when that money's going to actually start coming in. And hopefully we'll have kind of some end of year information on claims data for the rest of 2025. And then once we get into a rhythm, we might be able to push these meetings back to maybe once a year, once we're just reviewing information from the treasurer's office and reviewing claims. But I think it might make sense to meet a little quicker for this next one, just to see where things are in the next 6 months. So Does everyone want to pick a date in January that maybe works? I don't know if Mondays seem to work with everyone. Does maybe January 12th work as a potential date, and around the same time here, whatever we were, 1 o'clock, January
That'd be
12th.
perfect.
That works. It's fine by me.
Okay, so we will set our next tentative meeting for Monday, January 12th, 1 p.m. Sure, Cameron will send out the meeting announcement, and thank you again for everyone for participating today and being part of this process. I really appreciate it, and looking forward to working with you all to make sure this program stays running in the right direction and helping our firefighters. So thank you.